Part 50. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 492. The cultivators never expected that the princess of the underworld, who had never been seen in person in Lanchuan continent, would come to attend the wedding of the Empress. More importantly, Chu Qingyu and Yukin looked at each other for a long time, looking beyond the eyes of the crowd. As if they had known each other for a long time, everything was unspoken. Chu Qingyu's eyes swept over the cultivators from various sects who gathered in Tianyuan Palace like a tide. Obviously, the various sects, Cave Heavens, and even Yulan, who had transformed into a human form and secretly hid in the clothes he gave to the crowd, who came to participate in the celebration, had already arrived. "It's time to start," Tang Kao whispered softly. The next moment, the sacred and majestic Emperor Bell suddenly appeared in the sky. The Emperor Bell rang, and the golden wave marks immediately spread to the surroundings. Although there was no strong murderous intent as in the past, the majesty contained in the Emperor Bell still made the cultivators present, even the Saint Emperor, and even the Emperor Realm strongmen feel trembling in their hearts. The Empress's strength seems to have increased again. I'm afraid she has reached the peak of the waiting realm now. There was silence all around. In such a mighty power, even birds and beasts bowed their heads in silence and dared not make any sound. Not only that, a green light suddenly rose behind Chu Qingyu, which was the bamboo sword Dharma. Although the bamboo sword Dharma was suspended in the air, the sword intent it emitted faintly made people feel cold in their hearts. For a moment, all the scenes of all living beings were captured in Chu Qingyu's eyes. On the top of the silent Tianyuan Palace, she finally opened her cherry lips and announced to the world's cultivators gathered here. Today, this emperor will complete the wedding with Nai Chen in Tianyuan Palace. Are there any objections among the people present? There was a dead silence all around. No one dared to make a sound for fear of being misunderstood. Are you sure? Of course. I don't know how many cultivators with shallow cultivation were frightened and trembled, and couldn't help crying. The Emperor Bell and the bamboo sword were hanging in the sky. Even if they wanted to object, they didn't dare to do so. Puff. Who knew that in the silence for a long time, Chu Qingyu suddenly laughed lightly. It's true. Really, is this emperor really that scary? Whatever, since that's the case, it just happens to save a lot of trouble. Let's start quickly. As if ice and snow melted, this beautiful smile made many people a little stunned. In front of them, Empress Qingyu seemed to be always aloof and arrogant, and could not be offended. No one had ever thought that the Empress would actually smile like this. Moreover, the smile seemed to be the beauty of a banished immortal. It seems that the Empress has really changed a lot. Under the gaze of the cultivators of various sects in the world, Chu Qingyu stepped lightly on the lotus steps and walked towards Nai Chen. The colorful feathered dress outlines her graceful curves, and her long hair falls like a waterfall. Chu Qingyu's temperament is like orchid, just like a fairy who is not in touch with the world. Her eyes are full of spring water, and a smile appears on the corner of her mouth, as ethereal and illusory as fireworks, but gorgeous and flawless. Step by step, she walks towards the figure she has long wanted to embrace. Unknowingly, the two have walked into the center of Tianyuan Palace shrouded in light. The broken void that communicates with the fairyland continues to sprinkle soft light, making the already gorgeous colorful feathered dress look more like something other than an ordinary thing in the world. In the crowd, it is so beautiful that it even makes people feel a little suffocated. Wife, you are so beautiful today. Staring at the beauty in front of him, Nai Chen couldn't help but smile. Chu Qingyu said faintly, is it only today that is beautiful? Of course not. Not just today, yesterday, the day before yesterday, and even tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, and every day in the future, my wife, you are the most beautiful. You, /////////////////////////////////////////////////////////// No matter what, I didn't expect Nai-Chen's words to be so flawless. Chu Qingyu tried to disguise, but the blush on her cheeks had already betrayed him. This scene of embarrassment was naturally seen by Nai-Chen. So. He walked slowly closer, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. From the initial mistaken delivery of the letter of war to the Empress, to the confirmation of the relationship with the Empress and the announcement to the world. The past scene seemed to echo in Nai-Chen's mind at this moment. Along the way, there was only one thing that Nai-Chen could say without hesitation and with great determination. That was the love journey with the Empress that started because of the mistaken love letter, and he had no regrets in this life. Empress, are you willing to marry me? The next moment, Nai-Chen suddenly leaned down gently, and 2 rings appeared in his palm. He took one of the rings in his right hand and looked at Chu Qingyu gently. This is. Looking at the ring that was shining brightly and flashing with colorful light, Chu Qingyu's eyes suddenly froze for a while. She recognized at a glance that these 2 rings were made of the most precious source stones. And these source stones. So you went to fight the 7 goddesses alone that day for this. Chu Qingyu suddenly had tears in her eyes. The scenes since Nai-Chen broke into her life also slowly circled in her thoughts. My thoughts were full of emotion, but as clear as lake water. Although I have been an emperor for hundreds of years, I built the Tianyun Palace with my own hands and was respected as the Qingyu Empress by the world's cultivators. But the sky is my witness and the earth is my witness. I, Chu Qingyu, am willing. Chu Qingyu stretched out her delicate jade hand, and her voice was full of unshakable firmness. She had already determined her thoughts, and was extremely sure that this love was unwavering and would never change with the passage of time and the vicissitudes of life. The breeze blew, and the 3,000 black hair and the skirt of the colorful feathered dress swayed slightly, and the beautiful scene was like a poem and painting. Looking at the flawless Chu Qingyu at this moment, even Nai-Chen was slightly stunned for a while. But soon, he couldn't help but smile. Under the gaze of Aolan, the saint of flowers, Yuqian, and countless top cultivators in the world, gently and slowly put the ring on Chu Qingyu's orchid finger. The ring flashed on the delicate jade finger, as if it bloomed with a different kind of splendor. Then it's my turn next. Taking another ring from Nai-Chen's palm, Chu Qingyu smiled playfully and put Nai-Chen's hand on her palm. Then, she used her right hand, which was already wearing a ring, to gently put the most precious ring in the world, made of source stone, on the ring finger of Nai-Chen's right hand. And whispered softly in his ear. I am willing, and I am willing to love you forever. Like a solitary orchid in a valley, this voice is refreshing. Under the shining light, Chu Qingyu's eyes are already rippling with autumn water, clear and beautiful. She took a step forward, slowly raised her cherry lips, and kissed Nai-Chen. Shock, the love letter was sent to the Empress by mistake. Author, Mozuzi. Chapter 493. Is this the love between strong men in the imperial realm? Such a beautiful scene made many monks unable to help but marvel. Such flawless love, even if they recalled what they had seen in their lives, this was the first time they had seen it. The lips are softly close to each other, and the colorful feathers are dancing in the wind. The beautiful scenery here seems to be filled with the beauty of the world. At this moment, even time seems to have stopped, and it even makes people feel a little suspicious. It feels like this place is like a fairyland. But at this moment, a vision suddenly occurred. Golden light suddenly flourished, and 2 powerful auras rose into the sky from Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu. The powerful beam of light reaches straight into the sky, and even seems to penetrate the sky. The scattered aftermath drifted indifferently in all directions, covering thousands of miles. The Emperor's power is majestic and a natural phenomenon. This is. Even the Blossom Saint Maiden's eyes narrowed in disbelief. She instantly realized the situation in front of her. This sign is exactly the sign of a breakthrough. Moreover, Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu, who were at the peak of Huating realm and had been unable to cross over for a long time, seemed to have broken through at the same time. No one in Lanchuan continent has been able to break through the Calamity realm for thousands of years. Why did Nai Chen and Xingyu suddenly appear today? After being silent for a long time, looking at the scene of the two kissing each other, the flower saint finally came to a realization. It turns out that the opportunity for everything was this wedding. Nai Chen had certain problems with his cultivation, which caused him to be unable to move forward for a long time. The empress, who had always been indifferent and cut off her love to prove her throne, also stopped at the doorstep. Although the strength of the two people has stood at the pinnacle of Lanchuan continent, they have not been recognized by Tiandao. Because they all have concerns about each other that cannot be broken. It was this knot that became the obstacle for the two to break through. But the wedding at Tianyuan Palace completely broke this knot. Becoming a Taoist couple, Nai Chen penetrated the 8 ancient meridians and completely entered the realm of calamity. Chu Qingyu also cut off the worries of the past, broke through the shackles of heaven, and officially entered the catastrophic life. Lanchuan continent, which had not given birth to a powerful person in the tribulation realm for thousands of years, actually gained 2 emperors in one day. The monks from all directions were all shocked and stunned. Even Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu did not expect it. It turns out that this big wedding is the last opportunity for a breakthrough. The lips slowly parted, and their eyes looked at each other. Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu smiled slightly at the same time. But, looking towards where the monks from all sides gathered, a cold light flashed through their eyes at the same time. Come out, your disguise has been seen through, there is no need to pretend anymore. Nai Chen's voice was extremely cold. In an instant, the imperial bell in the sky rang. With invisible ripples floating in all directions, a bright golden barrier suddenly completely enveloped the entire Tianyuan Palace mountaintop. It seems that there is no way to heaven and no door to the earth. Haha, I originally wanted to take this opportunity to kill both of you. I didn't expect that you would break through at this critical moment. If that's the case. Roar. Among the crowd, suddenly there was an extremely inconspicuous young monk whose face became ferocious and twisted. Realizing that his identity had been discovered, he roared and tore into pieces the hidden skin. Huh. The dark wind howled by, and the person standing there was no longer an ordinary-looking young monk. Instead, there was a huge black mist that was dozens of feet high. This breath is not good. The monks around him suddenly felt fearful and hurriedly retreated into the distance. They never expected that such a monster would be hidden in Tianyuan Palace. No, it doesn't seem to be a simple monster at all. The cold aura exuded by the sky is enough to make people feel like falling into an ice cave. That feeling is like hell, Hades. If I guess correctly, you are the Lord of Hades who just broke out of the barrier. At this moment, Nai Chen sneered. This guy's methods are indeed extremely weird. So much so that he and the Empress were not aware of it even though he was hiding among the crowd. If he hadn't broken through to the realm of the Supreme Emperor at the same time during a kiss, he might have fallen into this guy's trick and been ambushed in the dark. There is no enemy with such strength in Lanchuan continent. Even if there were, they would never have the guts to sneak into Tianyuan Palace with all their might. Therefore, there is only one possibility. Are you here to avenge those 8 goddesses? That's right, so what if you break through the calamity? I came out today just to settle this account with you. There seemed to be a hideous and ugly head shaking strangely in the huge black shadow. The cold aura continued to drift out, and it was obvious that the Lord of Hades had completely fallen into anger after his plan failed. Nai Chen, however, remained calm. Oh. But apart from the 8 goddesses, there should be other reasons that really make you angry. From the resurrection of the great emperor's corpse that appeared in the imperial mausoleum to the riots in the underworld, it was almost destroyed. Those weird powers all originate from Hades. Let me guess, your real purpose is nothing else. Instead, he wants to annex all other underworlds, interrupt the order of reincarnation, and sacrifice trillions of souls. Treat them as sacrifices to make up for your broken body. Nai-Chen's eyes were suddenly as sharp as a sword. It wasn't until the moment he met the Lord of Hades that he finally understood the cause and effect behind everything since the Emperor's tomb. Although monks have thousands or even tens of thousands of years of life far beyond that of ordinary people, they are not immortal. Controlling countless reincarnation underworlds, the desire for power engulfed the Lord of the Underworld, making him unwilling to die, and even using taboos to transform himself into a ghost and survive for countless tens of thousands of years. But even so, he still couldn't stop the life from going to the end. So, he used this last resort. Unfortunately, his long-prepared plan to break the reincarnation order was still a step behind. And this move was due to his endless greed. What's the point of lingering on, living alone for so many years? Why don't you let me help you get rid of it and wash away the consequences? I'm in a hurry to enter the bridal chamber with my wife, but I don't have time to waste with you. Nai-Chen smiled indifferently. Roar. He obviously guessed it right. All his purposes and plans were exposed. At this moment, the Lord of the Underworld, who was once high above and in charge of the life and death of countless souls, was completely enraged. The reason why I am in such a mess is because, no matter what, I want to survive, and no one can let me disappear like those ants. You are the best ingredients, why not become my best sacrifice here? Anger and hunger intertwined together, and the Lord of the Underworld was completely furious. The huge black body twisted hideously, and even with the black fog covering it, the weird and ugly meat in it still made people feel sick. A strong roar echoed over the Tianyun Palace. The whistling wind swept, as if countless evil ghosts were wailing miserably. The sky was dark, and the yellow sand swept, like 100 ghosts walking at night, attacking and killing. Obviously, the Lord of the Underworld did not hold back at all, and wanted to crush Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu in this attack. And at the same time, flatten the Tianyun Palace. But, facing the roaring and wailing of countless ghosts, it was an extremely terrifying scene. Nai-Chen only looked at Chu Qingyu beside him, and the two of them smiled with trust at the same time. Go ahead, my wife. This emperor has just broken through, you have to keep up, husband, cough cough. Although the words were full of just entering secret language, the conversation was sweet and a little shy. But when Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu held a bamboo sword in their hands at the same time, the aura on their bodies suddenly changed. The Emperor's power was mighty, and the sharp sword energy swept up suddenly. Dong! The Emperor's bell rang for the first time, and Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu raised their bamboo swords at the same time. Dong! The Emperor's bell rang for the second time, and the two swords faced each other. The mysterious sword intent hovered between the two, constantly superimposed, enhanced, and understood each other. Dong! The Emperor's bell rang for the third time. Looking at the Lord of the Underworld, who was almost crazy, accompanied by the whistling wind, leading endless ghosts to rush down. Nai-Chen and Chu Qingyu drew their swords and slashed at the same time. Keng! The sound of the sword blade trembling echoed in the sky, and the extremely sharp sword intent seemed to be able to pierce the sky. The emerald green sword light burst out, and under the power of the Emperor Bell, it became 100 times and 1,000 times more dazzling. The sword energy cut through the darkness and pierced through the soul, as if a god had descended to the world, sacred, majestic, and unstoppable. Even the monks who were proficient in swordsmanship opened their eyes wide at this moment. They had never seen such a mysterious and powerful sword intent in their lives. The ghosts in the black fog were the same. Even before they came into contact with the sword energy, the instinctive fear made them tremble in their hearts, and they tried desperately to escape. But it was too late. The sword energy cut through the void and pierced through the clouds. When they cut into the black fog, they had no way to escape. Like the extremely hot karst, when they came into contact with the sword energy. No matter how powerful the ghosts were, they could not fight against them. They could only watch their souls melt and decay, and turn into ashes in the painful cries. The shrill roars echoed in the black fog one after another, and even the Lord of the Underworld, whose reason was almost completely devoured by rage, finally felt a trace of fear. He dragged his broken body out of the barrier, thinking that he could easily crush the two Emperor-level strongmen. But he never thought that someone on this continent with exhausted spiritual energy could actually break through to the realm of calamity and life. And the fusion sword intent displayed by the two of them was even completely beyond his cognition. This was also the first time he felt fear of something other than fear of time. And it was fear from the heart. Roar. The dark and hideous bloody mouth opened, and the Lord of the Underworld roared desperately, trying to resist with the weird energy accumulated for tens of thousands of years. But the withering of his body for tens of thousands of years had left him with little reason and control. He could only watch the sword energy break through the black fog, cut off countless ghosts, break the underworld energy, and reach in front of him. No. The Lord of the Underworld finally shouted in horror. He never thought that he would fall into such a state, and he was unwilling to face death. Let me go, let me go. Let him go, he has endless treasures, and he will definitely be able to repay you. Don't do this, stop it. Believe me, believe him. In the black fog, a continuous stream of bewitching sounds came out, trying to confuse Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. However, this bewitching sound that was enough to confuse the Emperor-level strongmen could not shake the two at all. Looking at each other, the two had already reached the same conclusion. Swish! The sharp bamboo sword shot up into the sky, and the two sword energies merged into one, and even the sword intent was integrated. Cut through the void, cut through the black fog, and all obstacles seemed fragile before it. Puff! In the black fog, the huge body was finally cut off by a sword. The huge crack tore the endless black fog apart, and it could never be restored. I actually would. In the endless darkness, a pair of eyes that were already as scarlet as a beast revealed fear and unwillingness. The Lord of the Underworld tried his best, as if he wanted to find the last ray of life for himself. But in the end, he could no longer support his body. Everything was too late. The blazing golden flames burned up, and the holy flames had already eaten away his body bit by bit. This illusory body that had condensed countless evils for its own selfish desires finally fell in an unwilling and painful wail. Burned up with the sound of whistling wind, completely confused and scattered in this world. Finally, it's over. What a terrible sword intent. After a long time, many cultivators still couldn't relax from the shock just now. After all, the two sword intents were facing the Lord of the Underworld. No one had ever thought that the Lord of the Underworld, who was in charge of the final reincarnation of countless underworlds, had fallen to such a field. Moreover, he could actually be killed. At this moment, from above the Tianyun Palace, a ray of light broke through the clouds and enveloped it. In the eyes of everyone, the golden light gradually transformed, and a ladder leading directly to the sky emerged. That is, the ladder to heaven. Only when you reach the realm of calamity and gain the recognition of the fairyland can the ladder to heaven appear. I didn't expect that the strength shown by the Empress and Nai Chen just now really attracted the ladder to heaven in the fairyland. Many cultivators were stunned. Although they had heard of it in the records, there had been no cultivators who had reached the Jizhung realm for many years. Such a sacred scene was the first time they had ever seen it. So, countless eyes converged on Nai Chen and Chu Qingyu. But they found that at this time, Nai Chen had already hugged Chu Qingyu's legs and waist, holding her softly in his arms. Nai Chen, you and the Empress are going to. Saint Fanhua and Aolan immediately chased forward anxiously. There were even some tears in the eyes of the man and the dragon. They never thought that the sudden appearance of the ladder to heaven would make the separation come so suddenly. Seeing Nai-Chen holding the Empress without hesitation, it seemed that he had made up his mind to leave. "What are you thinking about?" Who would have thought that seeing the two people's panic and pitiful appearance, Nai-Chen suddenly smiled. "The most important thing is of course to take the Empress to the bridal chamber. The ladder to heaven? Let's talk about this kind of trivial matter later." As he said, he tied a red belt around his waist, picked up Chu Qingyu's delicate body, and went straight to the bedroom. "You." Chu Qingyu's eyes were dim, but then, she couldn't help laughing from her original coquettish expression. This time, not only did she not blame Nai-Chen, but she raised her head and kissed him gently with her cherry lips. The beauty wore a silk dress, and her face was like flowing clouds. Holding Chu Qingyu in his arms, Nai-Chen walked towards the bridal chamber, kissed her cheek gently, and said softly, "Wife, I love you. I love you too. How long will it be? 10,000 years, no, forever." Chu Qingyu smiled lightly, her eyes were like water, and she was full of affection. This book is finished on December 10, 2021. Starting from March, after a full 9 months, nearly 200 or 300 days and nights, shock, the love letter at the beginning wrongly sent to the Empress finally came to an end. The protagonist Nai-Chen, the Empress Chu Qingyu, the Saint of Flowers, Aolan. Perhaps Zuzi has shortcomings in many plots and writing styles, but these vivid characters are Zuzi's biggest favorite for this book. They have their own personalities and their own stories, sometimes as if they are jumping on paper and really exist. Each character's branch line has been completed, and all the pits in the underworld have been filled. Zuzi has been writing books for 2 years, and this is the first time he has written a book with more than 1 million copies, so he feels a little reluctant. But with the wedding as the final ending, Zuzi thinks it is the most perfect ending. Giving everyone a perfect ending, giving the whole story a perfect ending, and finally letting Nai-Chen and the Empress complete their wedding and get together, these are Zuzi's biggest and most persistent goals in writing books. Now, everything has been successfully completed, and the book has finally come to an end. A perfect ending. Thank you for your company so far, thank you for your support along the way. This book is officially finished. See you in the next book.